On a stormy night in New Orleans, the city of whispers and hidden magic, a story begins that no one would believe. Emily Johnson had just entered her new life, moving into her husband Michael's family home. Michael was busy, always running between meetings and projects, leaving Emily to spend most of her time with his family. She tried to adjust, smiling through every new tradition, every Sunday dinner, every small town gathering. But something about her father-in-law, Richard Johnson, always unsettled her. At first, it was just a look, the way his eyes lingered too long, the way his compliments felt heavy instead of kind. Emily brushed it aside, telling herself she was overthinking. But nights in that house were never quiet. She began to hear whispers outside her bedroom door, words she couldn't understand, voices she couldn't place. One evening, while cleaning the basement, she discovered strange symbols carved into the floor, circles marked with ashes, and in a dark corner an old doll pierced with pins. Her hands trembled as she held it, realizing it was dressed exactly like her. Her health began to weaken. She grew pale, tired, plagued by nightmares of shadows pulling her down. She begged Michael to believe her, but he only laughed, saying she was just stressed. The loneliness grew heavier, until one night, sitting with her best friend Samantha, she broke down in tears. "Why do I feel like I'm losing myself? Why does his smile scare me more than nightmares?" Samantha's face darkened. She told Emily about New Orleans' hidden history, about voodoo, curses and rituals that could bend a person's soul. Emily's heart froze. Was Richard behind this? Curiosity pushed her further. One midnight, she followed Richard quietly into the woods. Under the shadow of an old oak tree, she saw him kneeling by a fire, whispering her name again and again into the flames, feeding the fire with strange powders and blood-red cloth. Her breath caught. Her chest pounded. There was no doubt anymore. He was trying to control her spirit. Emily could have broken down, but something inside her rose stronger. Fear turned into fury. She sought out help, and her search led her to an old woman named Madame Celeste. The woman studied her with knowing eyes and said, "You don't need to kill him. His own darkness will lead him alive, if you turn it back where it belongs." Madame Celeste taught her rituals of protection, ways to reflect the curse back to its sender. On Richard's birthday, Emily smiled as though nothing was wrong. The family celebrated, Michael toasted, and Richard, proud as ever, held his head high. But that night, when everyone slept, Richard went back to his basement to perform his ritual once more. He opened his book, lit his candles, and began calling Emily's name into the fire. What he didn't know was that Emily had switched his ritual book with one that reversed curses. The whispers he sent out began to return, louder, sharper, echoing in his ears. His body trembled. His reflection in the mirror twisted and screamed back at him. The next morning at breakfast, Richard's voice broke. His eyes were wide, his words spilling like a confession. He admitted to everything: his twisted desires, his rituals, his darkness. The family sat in stunned silence. Michael's hands shook as he realized what his father truly was. Emily's tears flowed freely, not from fear this time, but from release. Richard wasn't dead, but everything he had built, his respect, his charm, his power, crumbled before their eyes. That night, Emily stood alone near the old oak tree where it had all begun. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying faint voices, echoes of the darkness she had fought. She whispered into the air, "Evil doesn't always come with a knife. Sometimes it comes with a smile. Sometimes it lives in the house you trust the most. But shadows always fall when the light of truth rises." The camera fades as the oak tree sways under the stormy sky, whispers still lingering, leaving only one question in the viewers' hearts: what if the person you trusted the most was the one planning your ruin all along?